Have you ever felt, without anyone saying anything, others seem to notice something in you? It's not age. It's not gray hair. It's not a slowing of pace. There's something more subtle, deeper, and often, we don't even realize it, in various parts of the world. Many older people feel the same thing. The world feels changed. Relationships feel different. Days feel quieter, though not always sad. And all of this has a simple reason. It's not because you're weak. It's not because you're left behind. It's not because you're unimportant. Imagine the afternoon sun. It's not dazzling, but warm, calm, and soothing. That's how this age should be lived. No rush. No need to prove anything. Just be present with meaning. There are little things that others quietly notice. The way we greet each other, the way we sit, the way we view the world. And the good news, those little things can be gently changed. 4 simple things. 4 small habits. 4 gentle awarenesses. Not to regret. Not to fear. But to reopen the warmth of life. If you've ever felt like the world is moving too fast, and you'd rather slow down, this video is for you. Sit comfortably, breathe slowly, and get ready to view old age in a warmer, more peaceful, and more meaningful way. Imagine this: you're in a waiting room. The chairs are simple. The lighting is soft. People are sitting quietly. No one is saying much. But everyone is looking at each other, even if only briefly. And without a word, without a sound, everyone is picking up on something. Not clothes, not age, not body shape. What they're feeling is the energy of presence. Some people seem calm and warm, even though they're sitting silently. Others seem tired, even though they're not saying anything. And the interesting thing is, we've all been in both positions. Hello, dear friend. Wherever you are in the world, thank you for being here and sharing your invaluable time. This video is not meant to teach, not to criticize, but to accompany, like sitting side by side, drinking warm tea, and slowly sharing stories. Before we go any further, let me say one small thing. If this video feels like a friend, if its words feel slow and soothing, and if you want more moments like this, please support this channel by liking it or subscribing. Not for the sake of numbers, not for popularity, but so that a warm space like this can continue to be opened to many hearts around the world. Thank you. Your presence truly means a lot. This first thing is very subtle, very quiet, and often we don't even notice it. But precisely because of that, everyone can feel it. That first bad thing is when the light of warmth slowly disappears from our way of being. It doesn't mean becoming cold. It doesn't mean becoming angry. It doesn't mean turning into an unfriendly person. No, this often happens because of holding a burden for too long. The burden of experience, the burden of loss, the burden of hopes that don't always come true. Imagine an old lantern. It's beautiful. The glass is thick. The frame is strong, but the oil is running low. The lantern isn't broken. It just needs to be refilled. That's what many people do in old age. Not exhausted, just unwittingly tired. Imagine you walk into a small cafe. It's not fancy. It's not crowded. There's an elderly waiter there. His movements are slow. His voice is gentle. He simply says, "Please sit down." No big smile. No long pleasantries. But somehow, the place feels comfortable. Now imagine the same thing, but without the warmth in the tone of voice. No eye contact. No presence. The difference is small, but the impact is huge. And often, we don't realize that others feel these changes in us. Let's pause for a moment. Take a deep breath, and listen carefully to this. People don't distance themselves because of your age. People don't distance themselves because of white hair. What they're picking up on is, are we still opening ourselves up subtly? Or are we closing ourselves off because we're exhausted? This isn't wrong. This is human. There's a funny thing about age. When we're young, we talk non-stop and want to be heard. When we're older, we're quiet because we don't want to be a bother. Ironic, isn't it? We used to want everyone to listen. Now we're afraid to bother. Yet, often the world is just waiting for one small smile to come our way. A heartwarming little story. There was a grandfather who sat on a park bench every morning. He didn't say much. One day, he just nodded to a passing child. The next day, the child waved. Day by day, people began to greet him. Not because the grandfather changed, but because his small light was visible. It all started with one nod. Old age isn't about getting smaller. It's about getting softer, and softness isn't weakness. It's a quiet force, a slight smile, a soft tone of voice, a look of presence. These things don't require much effort, but they have a lasting impact. If today feels hard, that's okay. Just turn on a small light. It doesn't have to be bright. It doesn't have to be perfect. Today we learn an important lesson. The light within doesn't fade with age. It's just waiting to be touched again. And you still have it. Sit comfortably. Breathe slowly, and remember, your presence still brings warmth. Next, we will discuss something that is invisible to the eye, inaudible to the ear, but deeply felt in the heart. This doesn't come suddenly. It appears gradually, slowly, and often without our realizing it. Many people experience it. In many countries, in many cultures, in many languages. And maybe, you felt it too. The feeling that the world, which once felt close, now seems a little further away. This second negative thing isn't about the body. It's not about health. It's not about money. It's about gradually withdrawing from the world without realizing it. It's not because you don't care. It's not because you're angry. It's not because you don't want to socialize. Often, it's because you're too eager to understand the situation. We're different. The world is moving so fast now. I don't want to be a bother. These sentences sound mature, wise. Be quiet. But if said too often, it can turn into a silent distance. Imagine a train station. In the past, you often stood on the platform, greeted people, and boarded the train together. Now, you still come to the station. You still sit on the same bench. But when the train arrives, you say to yourself, let the others go first. Train after train passes, and without realizing it, you sit alone more and more, not because there's no room, but because you too often give space to others. Withdrawing doesn't always mean loneliness. But if it lasts too long, the world can feel strange. This isn't a mistake. It's a habit that grows from good intentions. Imagine a large dining table. It used to be full of stories, laughter, simple questions. Now, the table is still there. There are still enough chairs, but you choose to sit at the end, listening more than talking. Not because I don't have a story, but because I think my story may no longer be relevant. In fact, experience is a language that the heart always understands. It's funny. When we're young, we often say, I want to be alone. When we're older, we say, I don't want to be a bother. In the end, we're alone too, for different reasons. Life does have its own tastes. A small story full of warmth. There was a grandmother who always arrived early to family gatherings. She sat quietly, smiling slightly. One day, she began to tell a simple story. Not advice, not a complaint, just a story about the rain. In her childhood, everyone stopped for a moment. They listened. And from that day on, she no longer sat at the head of the table. Not because the world changed, but because she took one step back. The world never closes a door. Often, we are the ones who stand too far from the doorknob. Being close doesn't mean being intrusive. Talking doesn't mean being pushy. Being present doesn't mean being perfect. Just one small step. One simple question, one light story, one warm response. That's enough to reconnect. Old age is no excuse to be a spectator of life. It's a time to be a keeper of meaning. And meaning only comes alive when it's shared. If today you feel the world is far away, remember this. The world hasn't gone away. The world is just waiting for you to come closer. Today we realize one important thing. Withdrawing may feel safe, but the warmth of life always awaits just one small step forward. Stay present. Stay open. And believe me, you still have a place in this world. Next, we'll discuss something that others don't always hear, but whose voice we hear most often. This voice doesn't shout. It doesn't scold. It just whispers softly. But persistently. And often, we take it for granted. In fact, this voice is what slowly drains our peace of mind. This third negative thing is invisible to the eye. It's not recorded by time, but others can sense it. In the way we speak, in the way we respond, in the way we judge ourselves. It's excessive self-criticism. It doesn't mean self-blame. It doesn't mean self-hatred. It's small habits like, I'm slower, I'm not as smart as I used to be, I often forget. These sentences sound simple, but when repeated daily, they form a mirror that we look into every morning. And that mirror isn't always honest. Imagine an old clock standing in the living room. It's not as fast as a digital clock. It doesn't tick as loudly. But every second it ticks is precise and faithful. Now imagine that clock being constantly scolded. You're too slow. You're behind the times. But its job isn't to run. Its job is to keep time. So are we. We weren't created to always be fast. We were created to be meaningful. Slow doesn't mean useless. Calm doesn't mean weak. Imagine you're walking down a long road. Your strides aren't wide. You're not in a hurry, but each step leaves a clear footprint. Others might overtake you. That's okay, because your journey isn't a race. It's a story, and stories aren't measured by speed. There's a funny thing about age. When we're young, we often forgive ourselves easily. As we get older, we become our own harshest critics. After all, if we spoke that harshly to others, we probably wouldn't have many friends. So why do we do it to ourselves? A little soothing story. There was an old man who always said, I'm not the same person I used to be. One day, a child said to him, I like sitting next to you. Because you calm me down. The man fell silent. He wasn't fast. He wasn't strong, but her presence was a place of respite. And that was a value he never counted on. Talking to ourselves is the most frequent conversation we have. So change the tone. Don't be overly complimentary. Just be gentler. Instead of saying, I'm wrong again. Try saying, I'm learning. Small changes, but long-lasting effects. Others may see wrinkles, a slowed pace, a sometimes forgetful memory. But they also sense a calmness, wisdom, and depth that youth lacks. And all of that is worth appreciating, especially by ourselves. We learn one important lesson. How we treat ourselves will always be visible to the world. If we are gentle with ourselves, the world will feel kinder. Rest easy. Breathe slowly. And remember, you deserve to be treated with kindness. Next, we'll discuss one final thing that often goes unnoticed. Because it seems so natural. So natural, in fact, that many people consider it a natural part of old age. In fact, this is what ultimately determines whether the days feel empty or meaningful. Let's sit closer, breathe more slowly, and listen with an open heart. This fourth thing isn't about what's gone. It's about what we've stopped waiting for. That is, stopping looking forward to tomorrow with curiosity. Not because of despair. Not because of giving up. Often because of the feeling. Everything important has already happened. This sentence sounds peaceful. Calm. But if you dwell on it too long, the days can feel flat. Imagine a book that's still open. The first pages are full of stories. Adventures. Tears. Laughter. Then someone said, enough of this. But, the last few pages often contain the deepest meaning. Old age isn't the end of the book. It's a quieter chapter. And a quiet chapter doesn't mean it's empty. Life doesn't stop with age. It just moves at a different pace. Let this sentence linger in your heart for a moment. Imagine the morning. Light streams in through the window. The air is fresh. Time seems to slow down. If that morning were treated as simply routine, it would pass by. But if that morning were looked upon as a small opportunity to take a short walk, to say hello to someone, or just to sit quietly. The day would feel alive, not big, but full. There's a funny thing about plans. When we're young, we have too many plans and too little time. When we're older, we have time, but feel like we don't need to plan anything. Even small plans, like, I'll drink tea tomorrow while looking at the sky, are also life plans. A small story that gives hope. There was an old woman who wrote down every night one thing she was looking forward to the next day. Sometimes it was just listening to the morning birds, tidying up the plants, calling an old friend. It wasn't big. It wasn't extraordinary. But every morning, she woke up with a small smile. Not because her life was perfect, but because she was still waiting for something. The meaning of life doesn't always come from grand goals. It often comes from simple curiosity. What will I feel tomorrow? What can I enjoy today? As long as those questions remain, life is still moving, and you're still in it. We've discussed 4 things. Not to be regretted, but to be realized. A dimmed light can be rekindled. The distance with the world can be shortened. The tone toward oneself can be softened. And tomorrow is still worth waiting for. Old age is not the end of the journey. It is a time to walk slowly, without proving anything. And if today you listen until the end, it means one thing. You are still present, and your presence matters. Breathe slowly, sit quietly, and remember, as long as you are still looking forward to tomorrow, life is still speaking to you. Before this video truly ends, let me say one important thing. If you're still listening up to this point, your heart is still open. And an open heart is a sign of life that's still very much alive. In a fast-paced world, not everyone is willing to stop, sit, and listen quietly. But you did, and that means a lot. Today, we've walked together through many simple thoughts. About warmth that sometimes fades. About distances that are unconsciously created. About inner voices that are often too loud. And about tomorrows that we sometimes stop waiting for. All of this is not to regret, not to make you sad, but rather to gently remind you, age may increase, but the value of life never diminishes. Every breath you take still matters. Every presence you have still makes an impact. It may not always be visible, but it's always felt. Let's pause for a moment and say thank you. Thank you to the body that still faithfully carries us this far. Thank you to the heart that still feels. Thank you to the memory that holds precious stories. Many people in this world no longer have the opportunity to sit still like this. And today, you are still given time. That is a gift. You are not left behind. You are not forgotten. And you are not alone. In many places around the world, there are people like you, who walk more slowly, but carry profound wisdom. The world doesn't always need speed. Often, the world needs a quiet like yours. If one day feels lonely, remember this: one small smile can still warm a room. One simple story can still connect hearts. A new day is still worth welcoming with curiosity. It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just be present. That's enough. If this video brings you a sense of calm, a companion during a lonely time, or makes your heart feel a little lighter, please hit like. Share this video with someone who might need some warmth. Subscribe to this channel, so we can continue to sit together. In the future, leave a sentence in the comments, whatever's on your heart. Even a single word is fine. And don't forget to turn on the notification bell, so you don't miss any more quiet moments. Thank you for being a part of this space. Thank you for still listening, for still feeling, for still being present. Breathe slowly, sit comfortably, and always remember, as long as you're here, life still has meaning. Until we meet again, with a warm heart, and a day filled with gratitude.